guys, it's time to make chocolate chip cookies. This is my favorite recipe. It's called Award-Winning Soft Chocolate Chip Cookies. It is from a website called allrecipes.com. And as you can see, the original recipe was too large. It made 72 servings. I cut that in half to 36, so I'd only have 36 cookies, and then I did all of these numbers here. I just halved them. That's a really important skill for you as a baker. You should be able to half your recipes. And so practice your fractions, practice all that. So today's the day we get to use our mixer for the first time, and I wanted to kind of show you what the parts of the mixer are. So I'm gonna take my camcorder and just show you parts of the mixer. Your mixer, if you have a KitchenAid like this one, your mixer has a side little thing that locks it. I use this when I'm trying to carry the mixer. If I need to carry it from one countertop to another, I will lock it down. So what I mean by that is I can put the head of the mixer down and then lock it, and then I can carry it much more easily than if I were trying to carry it with it unlocked. And when it's unlocked, this thing can move back and forth, and you can tilt the head back. Your mixer has 3 attachments probably if you have this one. You've got the paddle attachment. This is the most commonly used one, and this is the one we're using for our cookies. Then there's the whisk attachment and the dough hook. We are not using them for this recipe, so I'm just going to leave them back there with all my wires. The bowl should be clean and dry and locked into place. Now some mixers have a little notch on the back of the mixer that you have to push against the bowl. These mixers have notches on the bottom. Do you see that there? It's got 3 notches, or 4, sorry. And then the bottom of every bowl has kind of like, it's shaped like a screw, like the threads of a screw. And so when you want to lock the bowl in place, you rotate the bowl until those threads go under those notches and the bowl locks into place. And I don't push the bowl too strongly because it's not necessary. I just lock it very lightly in place so that it's easy to take off when I'm done mixing. Now the paddle attachment at the bottom of it has this notch. The notch is supposed to align with this thing right here. So what we're going to do is line it up, and then there's sort of a spring-loaded. We turn the paddle to lock it. That notch is locked into place, and the paddle will now work for us. On the other side of the mixer is the dials that actually make the mixer turn on. There's stir as the lowest setting, then 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. When we cream the butter and sugar, we're going to be around like a 6 or an 8. We're going to be like in there somewhere. Okay, so we have our mixer all ready to go. Each of these sticks is a half a cup of butter, and if you ever forget that, on the side of a butter stick is all the markings. 4 tablespoons is a 1/4 cup. Then we've got 5 tablespoons, 6 tablespoons, 7, and 8. All 8 tablespoons, 1 stick equals a half a cup. So it's written right on there. Okay, so in they go. 1 stick. And 2. And then we need 3/4 cup of brown sugar. So what I do for that is I just take the 1/4 cup and I pack brown sugar into it 3 times, because 3 times 1/4 equals 3/4. Another thing I could do is do 1/4 and a half. They all amount to 3/4 cup. Okay, 3/4 cup. In goes the white sugar. That is all the sugars and the butter. Now I'm going to turn it on low at first, just so everything doesn't go everywhere. And then medium. And high. I hope you can see the difference here in the color and the consistency of the batter that we've been making, or the dough. It is really light and fluffy now compared to what it used to be even just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to scrape it down just one more time and make sure that there are no major lumps, but in general this is creamed enough for me. You can also feel the consistency of it and see if it's grainy. I will be honest with you, it is a little bit grainy, but for our purposes it's smooth and fluffy enough that it should be okay. You see the difference in the color? I don't know if you can see that. It's really light. That's what we want. I'm going to turn it on one more time. Now I have an important note about this. When you become an experienced baker, you'll start to notice that some ingredients, it's okay to overmix them, or not overmix them, but just like mix them a lot. Then there are other ingredients that it's like, you better hold off on mixing at high speeds like that. So butter and sugar, when we cream them, that's okay to have the mixer on high for, an extended period of time. I went over, I washed my hands, I went, got whatever. So that's okay. But what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't overmix flour at all. Flour is the dangerous ingredient that when you put it in, you mix it enough to get things incorporated and then you stop. Okay? It's very important that you don't overmix flour. But for butter and sugar and even eggs, you can mix a little bit more thoroughly than the flour. The next ingredient is almost like the secret ingredient of this recipe. It's the key. It is Jell-O pudding mix, and it's got to be instant pudding. You can see on the bottom there it says instant. Can you see that? And I use French vanilla because the French vanilla adds a little something something to it. And pop that in. Now this is powdery, so don't turn on the mixer too heavy, too hot. You can do what they call pulsing. You can pulse it, which is like turn it on and turn it off to let things settle and calm down. Okay, then mix it, stop, scrape down. Okay, now the eggs one at a time. We need 2 eggs. One at a time means that you put the egg in and then you mix it, and when it's incorporated then you put the other one in. Now I don't know if you guys can see this, but the side of the bowl has old ingredients on it. Old meaning it's got ingredients that were mixed together before I added the egg, and I need to scrape down the bowl to make sure that all of the ingredients get together, not just the ones in the middle. I'm not gonna lie, scraping down the bowl is a pain in the neck, but you gotta do it anyway. I want you to try to find it satisfying, because it is in a way. Might even want to pulse this too. There are a whole bunch of strategies, some of them involving towels, to keep the flour from coming up in your face as you're mixing. And remember I said, flour is the one thing you don't want to overmix. So this is actually looking really, really good. I'm going to scrape down my bowl one time. We do still want it mixed in, so we're going to go a little bit longer than this. But if you mix flour too long, the gluten toughens it up. So I'm going to mix in the chocolate chips. Oh, this is tough. And that is our chocolate chip cookie dough. So there are lots of ways that you can form your dough balls. Some people use ice cream scoops. So I've got these 2 scoops right here. This is like your ordinary ice cream scoop. You do not want to use one this big for your cookies because they will take a lot longer to bake and they'll be really big. They will spread out a lot. And this smaller one, which I would say, if you want the details from the handle, it says 40 under here. So maybe it's a number 40 scoop. I got this at the restaurant store on Shainersville Road and I love it. You could take your scoop, flatten it, and then, that was not graceful, I'm gonna do it again. Ah. When you're baking cookies, you want to make sure there's space between them because they are going to spread out. Remember, they have a lot of butter in them and the butter will melt in the oven. And sure, you know, they're not going to like turn into water, they're not going to turn into liquid, but they do spread quite a bit. So leave enough room. And if you don't have this cool ice cream scoop, what I do at home, because I don't have one at home, is I just take a big thing of dough and I break off about the right amount with my fingers. It goes pretty fast this way.
Good afternoon. At this time, we will conduct a drill related to how we will react to the sound of our fire alarm. Shortly, the fire alarm will sound. After the alarm sounds, teachers and staff, please check Navigate for information about the situation. Students, prepare to respond to your teacher's instructions. Reminder, this is only a drill.
Okay, before we start this drill thing, I'm actually going to pop these in the oven. So they're going to be in there 350 for about 9 minutes, and then just double check around minute 9 and 10 to see if it needs more time. I'm going to check Navigate now. When I have cookie dough that I don't intend to bake, I will make the cookie dough into balls, just as I did before. I put them on a tray and I don't spread them out, and I don't bake them. I just leave them kind of together. So I got 6 extra cookies here. I don't really intend to eat them, but I can put them in the freezer. And what'll happen then is they harden, and I can put them in a Ziploc bag and label it, and they will last for 3 months in the freezer. Actually, that's a really good way to keep cookies on hand and have that, they're done, that fresh baked taste. So when I get guests at my house, I can preheat the oven to 350, throw in some cookies after it's preheated, bake them for a little bit longer because they're frozen, and my guests have fresh baked cookies and I didn't have to like dirty any dishes. Here's what it looks like in my oven right now. Turn on my little oven light. I can press timer to turn the timer off. It's still at 350. Ooh. Oh yeah, these are looking good. They're kind of golden on top, so I can take them out. When baked goods first come out of the oven, they're still soft. They sometimes don't hold their shape. And that's because it hasn't had time to set. It's still, the proteins are still hot and moving around. They are still very warm inside, and they are not set because those proteins are still hot. So leave them on there for a little bit so that they have time to set. This is a very good example too of the difference between cookies that are scooped with the professional scooper versus cookies that are more freeform and picked from the wooden spoon. These are the cookies that were made with the scoop. They are round, smooth on top, they look pretty good. These cookies, you know, they're rustic. Either way, they're gonna taste amazing. I think I'm gonna eat this one. So I've got one of my uglier cookies here that I'm gonna use as a test. This is, again, award-winning soft chocolate chip cookies. You can see when you break them open, they're nice and soft. They're still warm. Now you still want to put them in an airtight container after they've cooled off. But it's so freaking good. Try these. They're really, really good. Make them at home. Do all the things we talked about. Do things at home safely with your kitchen supervisor. Please be careful and please do all of your dishes. It was great being with you today. Have a wonderful day.